For more now on the investigation into the investigators, let's bring in tonight's Legal Eagles for more. Both former Deputy Assistant Attorneys General Harry Litman and John Yoo. Welcome to you both.
Hi, Shannon.
All right, I'll start with some quick reaction from both of you. Harry, you go first. About these referrals from Devin Nunes to the DOJ, and Catherine's reporting that it could involve up to 24 people who may have to answer some tough questions.
Right, if there's a predicate, which is very unlikely. I can't even see what the criminal aspect could be. You know, Nunes is indefatigable in pressing this point, and it's no coincidence that it's just before the Mueller report comes out. Only in this small universe do people really think that Robert Mueller is somehow corrupt and dishonest and that the whole probe's a witch hunt, and this is just his latest.
Let me bring John in, because I don't know necessarily, and we don't know what he referred, but I don't know that it's necessarily aimed at Robert Mueller. It may be the origins way before that. We have no idea, but maybe he's looking at people like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page.
Yeah, I imagine that's mostly not about the Mueller report, but about what Mueller wasn't supposed to study, which was how did the whole thing get started. You know, Mueller was looking into whether there's collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. He wasn't looking necessarily at how did the whole investigation get started. So you could see several different possibilities. One is he may be referring, I expect, that either Jim Comey or the top FBI staff were leaking classified information to the newspapers, or that other Obama intelligence officials were improperly using the surveillance laws. And then one last thing I think that we really don't know enough about is whether the House investigators themselves ran into obstruction of justice, whether they ran into perjury when they were conducting the investigation themselves, which involved the interviewing of high-ranking FBI and CIA officials, both under the Obama administration and in the beginnings of the Trump administration.
Well, Congressman Mark Meadows has said that he thinks part of this is going to be that there were people high within the DOJ, he says primarily within the FBI, that would leak information to the media. Then these reports would come out, and they would point to those and say, look at this. It would help build their case for what they were trying to do anyway. Harry, if that turns out to be what this is, shouldn't every American, regardless of party, care about that?
The Americans, regardless of party, should care about leaks. Of course, it's a little like gambling in the casino. It's something that, you know, has happened everywhere but the Mueller probe for years. But I agree. One thing I do take issue with that both the senator said and John said, it's just anomalous to call this the Obama administration spying on Trump. This happened within the FBI. The people have been named have been Republican officials. Obama was president at the time, but the attempt to make it a sort of the, you know, one political party spying on another, I don't think comports with any of the known facts.
Well, but what we know from the IG report, the one we have, and we're waiting on others, but was clearly that, I mean, he found that there was a bias. I mean, people like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, I mean, talked all about how much they disliked this president and didn't want him to win and were terrified and backup plans and that kind of thing. Although they did say it didn't bias their decisions, they admitted that there were people who were initial part of that team who clearly were not fans of the president. But, John, before we let you go, I want to ask you about this new letter from Senators Grassley, Graham, and Johnson to the Attorney General. They've been trying to get information from the DOJ about the Hillary Clinton email investigation for years. They were told they couldn't have it because it may interfere with the Mueller investigation. This letter they sent today says, now that the special counsel's investigation has concluded, we are unaware of any legitimate basis upon which the department can refuse to answer the Judiciary Committee's inquiries. Is it wasted time at this point to be going back to the Hillary Clinton email investigation? Or they've said, listen, we waited patiently, we want this stuff now. Worth their time?
I actually think that they're putting the Attorney General in a hard spot. And if I were them, I wouldn't be asking for this, because on the one hand, they've been demanding that investigations continue. So if the investigations are actually going to continue, not the Mueller probe, but just other investigations about what's going on with the Hillary investigation, then the Justice Department can't turn this stuff over. And also there's a policy that once they conclude an investigation, the idea generally is that you don't share that kind of information with Congress because you want to protect your sources. You want to protect the FBI agents who are doing the work. So I actually think the senators should hold back, let the Justice Department finish its job, and then follow traditional practice and not ask to see these kinds of files.
They've got a lot to do over there at the DOJ, a lot of requests, a lot of investigations, and we await the results of those as we await the Mueller report on Thursday. John and Harry, thank you both. Always appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
5 of them are what I would call straight up referrals. So just referrals that name someone and name the specific crimes. Those crimes are lying to Congress, misleading Congress, leaking classified information. So 5 of them are those types. There are 3 that I think are more complicated.
Well, that was my next guest, House Intel Ranking Member Devin Nunes, talking about the 8 criminal referrals he sent to Attorney General Bill Barr, alleging multiple violations during the Mueller investigation. Well, tonight we have an important update. Sources familiar with the matter tell Fox News that the referrals include conspiracy, go beyond the 8 individuals, and will look at the Steele dossier's origins. Joining me now on these developments, Congressman Devin Nunes. Congressman, good to have you with us tonight. You say you're looking for answers.
Great to be with you.
To 3 key issues, key questions in this Mueller report. Now, what do you want to see addressed specifically?
Well, what I'm going to be looking for is there's 3 specific areas where I think there was some type of setup involved. So the first is involved with General Flynn. General Flynn was supposedly entrapped, was meeting with a Russian woman. I want to know what really happened there because, we're just now finding out about this and we need a lot more information on, what really was General Flynn doing, because it's a big deal if somebody within our intelligence agencies were accusing a 3-star general of having some type of Russian fling. It's serious stuff, and I want to get to the bottom of that. The second big question you have is Joseph Mifsud. Joseph Mifsud is how this whole investigation started. And let me tell you, Mueller describes him as some type of Russian asset of some kind. Well, if Joseph Mifsud was a Russian asset, we've got big problems with our British and Italian allies because he seems to be pictured with every British and Italian person that we know of. So that's something we also want to know about. And Mifsud was the guy who set up Papadopoulos. Finally, the third issue I'm going to know about is this infamous Trump Tower meeting. When you hear the Democrats talk about that there's evidence in plain sight, well, the Russians that are involved in the Trump Tower, the infamous Trump Tower meeting in New York, I call them the Fusion GPS Russians. Fusion GPS was the company that was working for the Clinton campaign and the Democrats, and somehow Glenn Simpson meets with them before and after, and he's actually, these are Russians that he's doing work for. I mean, come on. If Mueller can't get to the bottom of this and answer this for the American people, I don't know what the report was really worth.
So on Thursday, the Democrats are going to complain, invariably, they have before, inevitably, that the report contains redactions. Isn't it the case that ranking members with a certain clearance level can go read the unredacted report in what's called a SCIF, a secure area? So Pelosi, in other words, and Schiff, and others, obviously you can, go read the whole report. And if they think the redactions are wrong, they can actually make a fuss about those. So isn't this whole redactions debate kind of ridiculous?
Yeah, so what you're referring to is the Gang of 8. So the Gang of 8 is made up of the Democrat and Republican leader in the House and the Senate, and then the chair and ranking member of the Senate Intelligence Committee and the House Intelligence Committee. So I would see no reason why we couldn't go into a SCIF over at the Department of Justice. We've had to do it many times over the course of this investigation over the last two plus years. Go over there and read whatever is redacted. At that point, if there was something that they really wanted out, they could put it out. But remember what's happened over the last 2.5 years, Laura. What you had is you had leaks at the highest level coming from someone within the FBI or the Department of Justice, or just making something up out of whole cloth that the media would jump on. And I hope that we don't have that problem. I hope that we don't have an issue where there's redactions where you have people leaking out, oh, this is what the redactions really mean. Because, we know one thing. No. Whatever happens on Thursday, Donald Trump is a free man. There's no evidence whatsoever of collusion. They tried to frame him on obstruction of justice, and they didn't get him on that either, even though they tried to frame him. So this thing's over on Thursday for the American people, but the Democrats in Congress are going to continue to try to investigate, and my guess is that their friends in the media will play part of that.
Oh, no, they're going to go nuts. They're going to go crazy on Thursday all the way through, the second and third weeks of Easter. Now, Congressman, today 3 top Republicans in the Senate demanding information on the handling of the Clinton email probe And in a letter to the DOJ, Senators Grassley, Johnson, and Graham wrote, now that the special counsel's investigation has concluded, we are unaware of any legitimate basis upon which the department can refuse to answer the Judiciary Committee's inquiries. So this is obviously originating in the Senate, but this is something you all are interested in as well, correct?
Very much so. And also, don't forget, it was the Mueller investigation, Mueller himself, who did not allow us to see certain documents that we wanted to see over the last 2.5 years. Remember, we have to come on your show, and
right.
I would subpoena Rod Rosenstein, and then we get in this big fight, and eventually we'd have to go over to the Department of Justice. Well, there are several documents that at the end of the day, they fell back to, oh, this is the special counsel, sorry, you can't see it. We want to see those documents too. That's why I go back to what I said at the beginning of this piece, is that there are some really serious unanswered questions that the American people need answers to, and if they're not in the Mueller report, hopefully Attorney General Barr is going to get us those answers.
Well, if people were convicted or forced to plead guilty when prosecutors had exculpatory information or investigators had exculpatory information on them, whether it was Flynn or Papadopoulos, maybe even Carter Page, that entire surveillance of him and Roger Stone. I mean, everyone has to know about this. Congressman, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.